Yo, today I'm going to show you why I think 90% of ecom brands fail. And it's counterintuitive, and 90% of the advice out there is also wrong in my opinion, which is why I'm making this video. Because I get a lot of people come and ask me like, hey, we're at 50K a month, 100K a month, 200K a month, even higher. And they're just like, we need to do more. We've been doing this thing, it's been working well, but we want to expand and we want to do more. Like, what other things can we be doing? Before I do that, I'm just going to tell you why you should listen to me. I'm Kamal. If you don't know me, I've been in ecom for 7 years. I've scaled over 100 brands to 7 figures. I've scaled a bunch of brands to 8 figures. I was just in Vegas telling people on stage how to make a specific kind of ad. And whilst I was there, I was getting these questions like, hey, what more can we do? What more can we do? And I was thinking, hey, you just need to do one thing really, really, really well. So what I'm going to do is just going to show you the simplest way to think about ecom, why most of the advice you see online is kind of counterintuitive to this. It's the opposite of this, and how you can then just be inevitable by following this simple structure. All right, so ecom is super simple if you want it to be. It's super complex if you want it to be. And basically it comes down to traffic and conversion. You bring people to a website and get them to convert. Now, there's loads of ways to bring people to a website. Meta ads, SEO, Google ads, organic content, cold email, every single channel, Bing. You can do influencer marketing. There's 100 different things you can do. And so oftentimes I'll get like brands come to me being like, hey, we scaled to 100K a month and we're just doing meta ads. And it's like, we want to get to 200K, like what should we do? And I'm just like, well, you should do more meta ads. But they come to me and they're just like, we want to do SEO, and everyone's talking about AI SEO. Like, how do we do AI SEO? And the thing is, none of these things are bad things to do. You probably, like, all of these things are good things. But the thing is, like, when you do more than one channel, I'm sure people have dealt with this before, and it's oftentimes why a lot of brands get stuck scaling. Because when you do more than one channel, things get much more complex, and also your costs naturally rise. So let's think about it for a sec. If you're running just meta ads, that's your only source of traffic. It's extremely simple to know how well you're doing and what is bringing you revenue. Because let's say you spend £100 on meta ads a day, and then on your store you make $300. You know that you're paying £100, $100, you're getting $300 out, right? The scenario is now you're also spending, $2,000 a month on AI SEO, and your overall store revenue is $4,000, but you're also spending £100 a day, $3,000 a month on meta ads. And you're like, well, this isn't going well, but which one of those two traffic sources is bringing me the right revenue? And it's really not that easy to tell. You're going to have to spend time thinking about which one's doing well, how well each one is doing, and where you should spend more focus, right? And even with just those two things, you can see how it becomes way more complex, and your decision making becomes slower. You become less confident in the things you're doing, and therefore you're less able to allocate resources effectively. So that's basically what business is what is the best way for me to allocate my next dollar. All right, so then, if you try and do all of these things, you can see how it becomes extremely, extremely complex. It becomes almost impossible to decide where to allocate capital. Now, obviously, once you hit a certain level, you're going to have to try and do different channels. But when you're starting out, the simplest way to scale is just to do one channel. And any of these channels is a good channel. But the reason why most people put meta ads is because it works really early on. And so the meta ads growth curve sort of looks like this. It starts off, if you're not that good, you start off quite slow, but eventually you build and build and build learnings, and then it's an exponential sort of learning. Like at this stage, every 10% improvement in your ad is going to cause you a much bigger increase in sales than 10%, right? It's the winner. It's almost a winner takes all or winner takes most situation on Meta. So just by performing better and better and better, you're going to get outsized return when you get to this stage of a curve. Obviously, once you get to this stage, you're starting to get diminishing returns, like you're making better and better ads, but you're getting the outsized returns. Then you should start looking at these other channels, and then you should spend time here. And the thing is, when you do these other channels, I often have clients ask me like, hey, we're doing Meta ads. Like I hear people doing well on TikTok as well. And I'm like, yeah, you could definitely do well on TikTok as well. But if we were to do TikTok and Meta, it's going to cost you, twice as much basically, just in staff costs, in time, in the creative you need to make. And therefore now you're splitting your efforts into Meta and TikTok. So 2 channels, you're basically cutting what you're doing in half. And just as a scenario, if you were to become, spend half your time on Meta and you're at this stage in the curve, that's a massive negative to your output. However, if you're here, you know what I mean, and you spend less time on Meta, it makes sense. right? Because the curve is flatter at that level. And obviously, if you're really down here and you spend less time, it doesn't really matter because you're already making no sales. So not only is it more complex, but it's more expensive to do multiple channels. So when you're early on, you're gonna just want to focus on one specific channel. And I'm gonna explain the next stage of the funnel because there's two sides, right? And why doing one channel allows you to just really simplify how ecom works, and it allows you to understand fully your inputs and your outputs and how things are working. So this is kind of a mess now, but if you just assume we're just doing ads for traffic, it's the only thing we're bringing in. Our only variable is then how good are our meta ads, but then how good is our conversion when we get onto a website. Now conversion rate, the way I think about it is, yes, you can do these small things like classic CRO on a website to make your website perform slightly better, but it really comes down to how good your product is and how good your offer is. Now product is quite a hard thing to change, right? But if you're just running ads and sending things to a website and it doesn't convert, then you know that you have either a meta ads problem, a product problem, or an offer problem. However, if you were doing all of these channels, we don't know which one of them is a problem, right? Okay, so when you just do the one meta channel, right? For me, I know I make great ads, right? So oftentimes it's rarely the ads which is going to be a problem. And if you do watch my other videos, I tell people how to make the best ads possible. I think if you apply those things correctly, you'll be in a spot where, hey, my meta ads are really good, and I'm happy to help anyone out and ask any questions about their meta ads. If you want to send them over to me, I'll give them a review. But you can say my meta ads are pretty good, right? So then my only thing I need to worry about is my product and my offer, right? Now, product is a hard thing to change. So it's oftentimes we leave that one to the end. But if you do a product market fit, let's say you're doing 50K to 100K a month, you have some understanding that your product, people are buying and people are interested in it. Below that sort of level, it's harder to tell, but you have to make the assumption that your product's good a lot of the time. Okay, you can make changes to it. So based on these assumptions, the only thing you need to change next is your offer. So if you think about it simply, meta ads, offer, and they're the only things you need to worry about in the short term. And when we talk about offers, like a lot of brands will come to me and they'll say, hey, we don't want to do offers and we think it cheapens the brand. And the thing is, like, sometimes that's true, right? But in very rare cases, will you actually be able to scale like that. And the thing is, an offer doesn't necessarily have to be a massive discount, doesn't have to be like, buy two, get two free. It just has to be the way you position your product in order to make people buy. And oftentimes people just do not change that. The thing is, I've made offers, and I just done one recently, which increase margin, increase price, and have increased conversion rates just because of the way I've positioned it. So recently we had a brand who are actually doing really well with, like, they were scaling insanely well. But their margins were really tight. Like, the product was so high quality that if we were to price at the same price as the rest of the market, we're just at a competitive disadvantage because our price of our product is very expensive to make, right? So we thought, hey, how can we fix this? So we made an offer, we added in some extra free gifts, which didn't cost us a lot on our end, but they provided outsized value to the customer. And so we increased AOV by about 30%. And at the same time, our conversion rate went up, okay, only by like 1 or 2%, but our conversion rate went up. And we added more margin. So basically, you should be testing like offers like crazy, especially when you're starting out. Because when you want to go to 100K, 200K a month, to $1 million a month, like, the offer is usually the biggest variable. And as you can see, like, a lot of marketers and a lot of like people online, a lot of agencies, when you ask them why things aren't working, they'll be like, well, our meta ads, the click-through rate is lower this month, and our SEO has fallen off this month, or we actually don't know if how much our organic is doing. Our email's been performing well this month, but there's like 8 different channels which are all taking credit for all the different sales, but you at the end of the month, you're sat there just like, well, we're not scaling, but apparently every channel is doing great. And the thing is, if you just take it all back and strip it back to like, I'm only running one channel, maybe 10% on a different channel, but I'm only running one channel, and my offer, we've been testing that, that all you need to do is make your meta ads better or make your offer better. And that's the only variable. It's not like, how do we allocate money 10% better to Facebook than we do to Google, right? Because that question is complex and it's hard to actually figure out. It takes a long time to figure out, and therefore you can't make decisions quick enough. So oftentimes I believe that people will do multiple channels so they can hide behind numbers rather than stand in front of the quality of their work. And when you just do meta ads and your offer, you have nowhere to hide. And that allows you to be true to yourself and be true to your commitment and be true to how good your work is. So the reason why 90% of brands fail is because they try and do too much. They get shiny object syndrome, and they realize like once you get to this stage of the meta ads, you know, funnel, it's actually really hard to make a 10% better video. And it is, right? It's more complex, and you have to become a better marketer. You have to understand your customer better. And it's hard, right? And it hurts. And when you make an ad which doesn't work, you know, you're just like, oh, you know, I thought it was gonna work, and you get sad and things like that. And oftentimes what people do is they're just like, oh, maybe the system's broken. It's not my fault. You know, I need to try TikTok. TikTok's ripping. I need to try do organic. Like this brand's doing organic and they're doing really well, so I need to be doing that. And it's fine. If you want to do organic, right? I got no problem with that. I just do meta ads, and I think it's the best way to do it. But the thing is, if you're just true to yourself and just blame the quality of your work for your results, you will get better outcomes in the long run. And the 90% of the brands fail because they overcomplicate it, they do too much, and they don't worry about the quality of their work and like the offer and the meta ads. And the thing is, it's not their fault, because when you think about quality of work in marketing, if you go on Reddit, you go on things like that, when they talk about things aren't working, and this is probably across 80% of the industry, they will blame macro conditions, they'll blame CPMs rising, they'll blame meta being broken, right? And all of these things are completely out of their control. But if you have a mindset that I am just trying to make the best ads possible and then making people convert with great products and a great offer, then you're going to be inevitable in actually being true to yourself and making better content. So that's why 90% of brands fail. And the brands who are doing really well, you can scale to $1 million a month, you can scale to $2 million a month just by doing meta ads, 90% of spend, Google, 5 to 10% of spend, and just having some email marketing. It's much simpler to do that. Like it's way, 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 way harder to run all of these channels at the same time, right? Like even 9-figure brands will not be running all of these channels, and because it's super complex to allocate money. You have to then pay a data scientist to figure out your incrementality. Right? It's extremely complex, and you don't want to be doing it. That's it. Summed up. If you are finding yourself in a situation where your agency is telling you, is hiding behind these numbers, or your agency is telling you like results are down because of these macro factors, or maybe we should try a different channel, or maybe you even want to try a different channel because you know you have a friend who's performing really well on that channel, like I would advise you to stop and think about, hey, fundamentally, what is not working? What are people not buying? Because you got to remember, it isn't like a science experiment. It is literally you selling something to someone, right? Some weird account structure or some weird setup between like having 95% spend versus 85% spend on certain channel is going to make someone buy your product more often. You need to think about your actual customer and why they buy. And by doing just for stripping everything back to meta ads and your offer and your product, it allows you just to think about those things instead of worrying about all of these things and then all of these macro factors and then all of these, like where should we allocate spend, and then, oh, we don't know if this campaign's performing better than this campaign. It becomes more about just doing the things correctly, doing the marketing best, think about your customer. That's it. Let's go. Boom.